sure you noticed nowadays, like the dating world, the relationship world, there's a lot of chaos going on, a lot of ups and
Yeah.
downs with a lot of people, When did you notice that, there is something out there that people don't really know that if they apply, they can transform their love life?
Oh, that's a good question. Well, one of the things I always say is whatever you're experiencing on the outside world, a lot of it's coming from inside of you. So whatever type of, either if it's positive or if it's negative when it comes to relationships, it's coming from you. And so there's something that all of us need to work on, inside of ourselves if we want to see something on the external. So I always like to use myself as an example. Um, I always attracted, toxic women or women that didn't really love me, or, they would use me for certain things. There was something that just kept happening in all the different relationships until I had to realize the common denominator was myself, you know? And so when I finally realized that, I'm like, oh, maybe there's, I would come across different, relationship gurus or, spiritualists, and they talk about how the things that you're experiencing is from you. But I couldn't understand that because I'm like, how does that make sense? These people are doing all this crazy stuff to me and all that. But when you actually get down to it, all of that comes from me. I'll use this as an example. I was a people pleaser, and when it came to relationships, I would always just allow any and everything, being the nice guy, quote unquote. Uh, until I realized, oh, the reason why these women are treating me this way is because I'm feeling that this is what I'm worthy of. I'm not putting up boundaries. I'm not saying no. I'm not saying no. I don't like what you're doing, or this is disrespectful. When you don't do these things, you're asking for the opposite. So one of the things I had to realize is, you know, what I'm experiencing when it came to relationships, whether it be toxic girls or whatever it was, I'm the one that allowed it into my life in the first place. So everyone that's dealing with toxic relationships seems like they can only attract the same type of person. Um, I feel like there's a moment where you have to take some responsibility and accountability. You get out of the victim mentality, because um, that mentality that you have is what's putting you where you are. That what the type of people that you're dating and keep attracting. That's what you're bringing into your world. So something that I really learned is looking within, trying to actually pinpoint the things that you're doing that's attracting this type of circumstance, this type of relationship. It's always looking inside of yourself first instead of pointing fingers to what's going on out here, if that makes sense.
So you're saying people should take a approach of taking personal responsibility first, understanding that they are the cause for their life, and adjust
Exactly.
from there.
Exactly. Um, if you look around, if you see in a lot of like the dating stuff, everybody's just like pointing fingers at each other and, oh, you need to do this, you need to do this. I can't seem to get people to do this for me, and they always treat me like this. And at the end of it, what did you say yes to? Sometimes you hear about people getting cheated on, which is a horrible thing, but then you learn that they've stayed in the relationship for 5, 6 years, and they've been getting cheated on all this time. It's like, yeah, it's a horrible thing that this person's doing, but who is the person that's allowing them to do it? Once you find out about it and you learn about it, now it's on you. You can't keep saying, oh, this person treats me like dirt.
Yeah.
So it's like, it's like there's a piece of accountability and self responsibility that people should learn to take, and everything will change. And people think like, oh, this will take years. This could make these small changes can make a change in your life instantly, instantly. But people don't realize it because they're too busy trying to point fingers over here, over here, over here. You know what I mean? And it's something as simple as that.
A lot of people, a lot of things get revealed to them, as they're going into meeting new people, new relationships, and it just exposes who they are. And I have this saying that I say like all the time, like being in a relationship is the highest form of self-development, because you get to see all of your weaknesses and negative traits, like just
Wow.
out there, like like, and then it just, depending on the people, your partner that you have, it's, some of them may tolerate it, some of them may just discard you, and the same thing can happen to them. Like most of the times it happens because when emotions get involved, like people go back to their just original programming, as I say, like the traits and the habits that they learned over time. It just becomes way easier when there is no, when it's like they just let go of the conscious control, so they just go
Yeah.
back to their subconscious habits, and then that's when a lot of the issues happen, and a lot of people fail to realize that, okay, this is not necessarily me, this is just a habit, or a character trait that I over the years I ingrained within myself, that's not the most productive, it's pretty toxic. And
Yeah.
they either say, oh, it's just me, and they don't want to evolve, and they let go of the relationship, or they actually take the initiative to change, to evolve as a person, and grow the relationship from there.
Man, that's lit- that's huge because I feel the same way, especially when you said the relationships kind of like show a reflection of who
Yeah.
you are, or things that are inside. Because that's something I didn't realize. And they always talk about healing and loving yourself, and there's like a point to where you can on your own, and then there's some things that you can only, I believe, heal when in a relationship, or because you can see it. Some things aren't
Yeah.
really pinpointed, right away. So, and that's the one thing I even learned about myself. Uh, things that you thought that you dealt with, maybe little insecurities and things like that, and then little moments will pop up where it'll bring it to the surface. And relationships are just the perfect mirror because it shows you little things about yourself that you think that you healed already, or maybe you didn't even know about in the first place. And but like you said, also it's up to you if you want, if you're actually going to take the initiative to, okay, that's just, you're going to say, oh, that's who I am, or are you going to say, hey, I wasn't aware of this, and now that I've, that this relationship and this partner of mine has brought this to the surface in me, now I can actually deal with this, now I can actually do what I need to do to grow and continue forward, and not just hold on to this thing that might not even really serve me anymore.
Absolutely, 100%. Has there been like an experience from your past that you kind of came to the same crossroad, that you were like, oh, you felt like maybe the other person is causing a certain problem or trouble, but it was actually you?
Yeah, yeah, man. Like I can't tell you how many times where I, I'm pointing fingers like, oh man, like this person did this. I can't believe they did this to me, and they were so rude. I can't believe they hurt me. And then, but it comes back down to, oh wow, I didn't realize like I had a huge part of this. This specific situation that's going on, but unless you actually have that introspective time, like that time to really, and that's why I really believe that, time to meditate and just have some time in solitude alone at times is really important, because these things kind of get revealed to you when you're in your own space, when you're in your own energy, when you actually can, pull back and just, you know, close your eyes and just breathe and just be in this moment right now. And that's when the things just come. That's when things come. We think that we get the answers by being on the move all the time. But sometimes it's like, and that's how it was with me, even, after I dealt with toxic relationships. Sometimes they can be really draining, and but some people hop into the next one, get ready to hop into the next one. Who's the next person? And then when you actually, you know, realize what's going on after an amount of time has passed, you're like, wait, I haven't even dealt with any of that stuff that I was supposed to deal with, and here I am on my, seventh partner in 2 years, and I still have the same problem that I had from before, and I never dealt with it. And so having that time to even have some solitude, and maybe it's like for some people it might be taking a little break from dating and just figure yourself out. Maybe you need to pour back into yourself a little bit first. They say, how are you going to fill everybody else's cup if you don't have your own filled?
Yeah, 100%. That time away is crucial, man, because you get to see a lot of things being revealed to you that sometimes it hurts to accept, sometimes it hurts to acknowledge that, okay, I have these problems and shortcomings. But man, that's the best moment to actually realize, okay, there's a lot of potential to grow.
100%.
I'm sure
100%.
I don't know about your experiences, but I've had instances that in my life that, in relationships, they told me that, I'm struggling with certain things, or I got to improve at certain thing, and at that moment it hurts, and your
Yeah.
pride kind of takes a toll. But then you, like, in the retrospect, you kind of pull yourself back and you look at it, you're like, okay, that was actually true. I'm glad I worked on it. I'm glad, I took the positive lesson out of it, and I didn't really take it personally. It was more of like a growth tool
Yeah.
for me, rather than something that's, they're just like, it's not an insult, it's just something for you to grow.
Yeah. And see, and I love to hear that type of story because, there's some guys that will, in the moment they get hurt and then they take it to heart and they really
Yeah.
internalize it and they might turn bitter
Yeah.
or now they hate women. And but you took something that felt negative or might have felt painful in the moment, and then you transformed it and you used that. I call that transmutation. You like transmuted something, horrible or painful, and then you transmute it into something beautiful, which is your strength. Yeah, sometimes guys they get hurt, uh they might they get hurt, they deal with heartbreaks, breakups, and rejections, and they take it to heart. But when you can actually take that as a little bit of L's, I don't call those losses; those are lessons. So we can take all of these defeats, whether it be a rejection from a woman or a job or whatever it might be, a quote unquote failed relationship. I don't look at any of my past relationships as failures because I was able to take something from them. I was able to learn something and some things about myself that I needed to work on. And and that's what we need to look at every single relationship because it is a mirror. And it might, one relationship might be a mirror to something, for a certain part of your life. And then 5 years later, you might be in a different relationship. Some people aren't going to be in our lives forever. Until you find your forever person, sometimes people are meant to be in different relationships to learn different things. For me personally, I needed to go through the relationships that I was in, failed or not, to find the woman that I'm with now. And being with her now, I'm like, I would have never been able to deal with any of this stuff. So I just think that it's beautiful, like what you said, is taking those failed moments, and I'm sure you probably had a lot of moments where you can look back and say, "Oh man, like I'm glad I actually took this moment and dissected it and didn't just internalize it, but actually turned it around into something positive for me."
Yeah, 100%. That's so true. I'll give you an example. For example, from my previous relationships, it's like I was like 20 or 19. This was like 3 years ago, and
Yeah,
then she was telling me that, my last girlfriend, that she was saying that, oh, you you stop seeking happiness externally. Stop, basically using our relationship as, basically something that, makes you happy. Like, you seeking
I
external things to
see.
give you pleasure and stuff, or happiness and, fulfillment. And in the moment, it didn't really click. But then, like a month or two went by. Like, I really just sat on those information and other things that she said. I was like, you know what? It's true. It's actually true. Like, I should just be fulfilled and happy and content within myself without anything external. And then that's how I can pour into other people, rather than just like take.
Yes, 100%. Like I've been in there as well, and I talk about this a lot with my podcast is um, guys have to also always remember when you're in a relationship. Yeah, your woman is definitely a very high priority in your life, but you always have to remember the things that you did before that you were in a relationship because that will, well, it really will keep you grounded. As one thing I would always do is make my woman my all. She's the everything. Like there's nothing else. Like no friends, no hobbies or whatever else.
Yeah.
And that's setting yourself up for failure because you'll just be giving all of that attention that could be used for your purpose or whatever else as well. And you're just directing all of it. And believe me, what I learned is a woman feels that. Like a woman might say that she wants all of your everything 24/7, but she doesn't really mean that. She wants a man that's focused on something, that has other things going, and also has a relationship, and he cherishes and treats his woman well is also. But it's a
Yeah.
balance, and I think that was a balance I had to learn, the hard way. Because, like you said, you could recall a relationship. I can recall a relationship where, I made this woman my everything before she even felt like even close to what I felt, just bombarding her with all these things and love and posting her before we're even fully together and just being over the top and just making her my every die all be all.
Yeah.
And it ended the relationship because she said, you don't have a backbone, you let me walk over you, you do this, you just had this whole list, kind of like what were talking about uh with your ex. And in the moment I was like, I just kind of sat there and I took it and I dissected it and digested it, and I was like, you know what, she is right about a lot of these things. Even though she was angry and it hurt, hurt my feelings. I was like, wait, there's something I can work on here.
Yeah.
And I took time after that to actually work on myself before I got into another relationship. And I think that's huge because sometimes people, I feel like, don't have a lot of experience when it comes to relationships and dating. So I feel like they might just choose someone prematurely, or someone that might not really be a good match for them because they don't have that discernment yet. They don't have the experience to know exactly what to look for. That
Yeah.
was me. So I think sometimes people are just going to get into these types of relationships, but they might hurt because it might have been lacking in a lot of different things, or you might have been lacking in certain areas. But it's a learning curve. It's all for your growth. That's why I feel like
Yeah.
it should be looked at.
100%. You're right. Like it's those moments can hurt. They may, humble you a bit, but it's for the greater good. It's, you're gonna learn, you're gonna be able to become a better man, for, your future partner. You're gonna be able to become a better man for your kids, your
Yeah,
family. You can set a better example. And at the end of the day, like as much as we want to like hold things against other people and just hold grudges and have this negative things against them, I feel like everybody's a human at the end of the day. They all come from their shortcomings, and everybody goes through family problems and toxic situations, and some people maybe go through a bit more or less. But as long as you have the conscious ability to make different choices and improve every day, even it's like 1% every day, I think by the time you're like time by the time it's the time to be with the person that you actually want to be with, I think you're going to be in a good place if you actually have that mindset of, okay, you know what, I'm not perfect, I'm going to keep improving.
yeah. It's so funny that you say that because I feel like there are certain things that I needed to deal with as far as character flaws, if you'll say. And each relationship that I was in, like I'm married now, but before I got to my dream woman who I got married to, there was like a lot of these things I was dealing with where each relationship actually brought me through some type of barrier or some type of thing, obstacle that I need to get over, whether it be needing to speak up for myself or learning to, have a backbone, or, saying no, not, or being able to argue with a woman, or not argue, but, being able to have an argument without raising a voice, calling someone out of their name, any of that type of stuff. Some of the stuff like that, I didn't have the skills yet. But you best believe there was a relationship that I endured, or experienced, and that relationship helped me to get over that hurdle. Even though it didn't feel like it didn't look like it in the time, but there were these little things that kind of showed weak points, or parts of me that I needed, like you said before, your shadow, part of your shadow that you haven't dealt with. Um, and, and even when you're in the best relationship ever, I feel like it's still going to show you parts of yourself. There's still, there's never a point where you can't evolve enough. Like, you have to keep growing,
Yeah.
and eventually you can. I'll say this for the people that are wanting to attract a specific, like, dream partner, somebody that you can adore, that is on the same level as you spiritually, or financially, whatever it might be. You literally just have to start being what you want. you
Yeah.
know, like, if you want a woman that's loyal or whatever, you need to be a loyal person. Start by being loyal to the friends that are around you, or the family that's around you, or the women prospects that you're dating. Start being loyal. Practice these things. If you want to be someone that attracts more love into their lives, then start doing that. Start putting that out there. Start being the love that you want to have in your life, because the things that get attracted to you are what you're putting out, you
Yeah.
know, or or the things that come. If you don't say no to it, you're still attracting it. You're still accepting it. So I think that's really huge, especially when it comes to relationships. Is you know being able to know for a fact that, hey, I'm continuing to be better every single day, every single relationship that I enter, or any type of friendship, whatever it might be. You can learn something from every experience.
100%, man. 100%. It's interesting because I feel like the relationships that you're the most compatible with, you get the most triggered because it definitely challenges you, and your partner. You guys can butt heads, and it's not necessarily if you guys trigger each other, or things problems come up, or like situations arise. I think it's the way you handle them, because you cannot never like escape from this, things that come to your life, and good situations, bad situations. It's the reaction that matters the most, like if someone
Yeah,
has a toxic trait, if I have a toxic trait, and if I'm mature enough to sit down and understand, what, I do bring this to the table, I do bring this negative trait to the table, but I'm not here to blame you, I'm here to take responsibility, one. And two, we are here for a solution to find ways to get around it, to solve it, to make sure that doesn't affect you, or for me to maybe divert that toxicity to through a different direction, maybe overly angry or something. Maybe I can, instead of just getting angry at home, I can go to a boxing gym or an MMA gym and just train there and let that energy, go somewhere else, transmute it, as you said.
yes, no, 100%, man. Like, and I feel like that's a really big thing when it comes to relationships. A lot of times, there might be pent up energy, negative energy, and a lot of times guys might not know how to get it out, and they might take it out on their woman. And so it takes a lot of emotional intelligence to be able to catch that and realize, oh, there are some anger things or whatever I need to work on. Um, Instead of just, oh, she always does this. She knows how to trigger me. She knows how to, and it's funny that you said that. Where you said, sometimes it seems like the people you're most compatible with, they trigger you the most. That was I like that you said that, because I remember there was a time I was dating a girl and she was totally my type. We're compatible in so many different areas. Oh, she knew I would get triggered so bad, like so, like she knew how to trigger me, but I didn't also realize that there were things that I was doing as well that even caused her to trigger me in the first place. And a lot of times, like you said before, it was the reaction. It was, and that's another thing I wanted to talk about is especially when it comes to us men, our reaction is everything when it comes to relationships. There's going to be times your woman is going to do something that you might not like, but it's really important to have that emotional intelligence and to be able to have that self control to be able to say, hey, I know that she's, you know, made me angry or she's really pissed me off, whatever it might be. But you still want to show love. You still want to, be her man and show self control. You're not going to let your anger or these negative emotions or the whatever disrespect you might be feeling, you're not going to let that get you out of your character. And I think that's super important when it
Yeah.
comes to men and our masculinity, because a lot of times men will just lash out, or they'll, they get their anger out of control. It's out of whack. They say things they don't mean because they're in the moment, emotional. And I think that's where a lot of relationships can mess up, because a lot of people don't realize a lot of it does fall on the man when it comes to leading. The interactions, what thing, sometimes women are going to do some things, but it's up to you to, what are you going to do now? That's always what it should be. What are you going to do now from here on?
Yeah.
It can't just be the same type of, you're just going to have outbursts and throw a tantrum or whatever. And then like, oh, I don't understand why I'm not getting a feminine woman. I don't understand why she does this and she fights with me. It's because you're not leading. You're doing the same thing that she's doing. You're being passive aggressive, and you're doing all these other things that she's doing. And
Yeah.
it's two feminine energies coming together. That's what's happening. So it's like, you have to, realize our masculinity is so important, and I don't think it gets talked about enough, how you know important having masculinity in the dynamic of a relationship is.
100%, man. The reaction is the most important thing, and also handling and diverting your masculine energy. Because again, I like to go back to my personal experiences, because it feels like very fresh. It feels like very um relatable to people. I'm sure like a lot of people go through it. And this is not from my previous relationship. This is like my current relationship. And like, one thing I'm proud of is like, me and my girl like very good like communicatively. Like we don't hide things. We don't hide behind the things that we got to work on. We are very honest and blunt. And there was this instance that like I got like overly like angry. I got a bit like emotional. And my girl said, um don't I don't want you to bring yourself back to my level. I want you to maintain your, like, I guess,
Wow.
yeah, like the stoic, the way of thinking, like being stoic, being like kind of calm and relaxed. And I'm a
Yeah.
very calm person. I rarely argue. Like I don't raise my voice. um and I'm like, I always like de-escalate things. I just keep things cool. I'm never like rarely
Right.
the emotional person. And that one time I wasn't in control. Like I let the emotions get the best out of me. And then she was like, like, I don't like that. I don't want you to be like, bring yourself to my level. And it's like, you're supposed to be diverting me. You're supposed to be guiding me. And she didn't say it in a way like to put me down. She said to, because like I am the man. She told me to like to step up as the leader. And
Right.
I even though it kind of was like, what, like it pisses me off, but it's like, she's right. Like, I mean, I gotta step up. And I like that. I think those conversations really help you grow. And I think it just depends on the man how they take it. Because if
Man.
my other version could have been, oh, what are you saying? It's all your fault. You're pissing me off. This, and then nothing would have happened.
Right. Like, man, that's huge. And I think that's, for one, that's amazing that you and your girl have that type of, communication,
Yeah.
and just being able to be open, because I've learned that some people don't really have that, and they might be kind of scared to be as open as that, because of, or maybe they have, the fragile egos and things like that, and it hurts. It hurts to be called out.
Yeah.
Like, it doesn't feel good, but in the end, it makes the relationship stronger. Even me and my wife, we're long distance right now. She's overseas, but there is so much trust that we have between each other. But I remember there's one particular time, like I let my mind get the best of me, and just lashed out, said some crazy stuff, and she was actually, she didn't meet me back with that, but she let me know, like, hey, I understand you're upset, but you can't talk to me that way, or and it brought me back. I'm like, wait, I'm tripping, like, it was just a moment where sometimes you don't realize it. You don't even realize it because you let whatever your emotions sweep you.
Yeah.
And we rarely have, would ever have a moment like that, because like I'm like that too, really calm, laid back, where I'm always smiling. We're laughing most of the time, we're having a good time. It's But there was a moment I let my emotions and my thoughts take the forefront, and and I was wrong. I was totally in the wrong. and I apologize. And that's another thing, is being able to apologize when you're wrong, because at the end of the day, none of us are going to be right 100% of the
Yeah.
time. Sometimes your girl is right, and you got to be the one to be like, hey, that was my bad. That's one thing I had to really work on, is being able to apologize, admit when I'm wrong, instead of try to be like, oh yeah, like whatever, try to brush it off, or
Yeah.
but when it really matters, that it seems like it's insignificant, but just being, because when I tell you, when my wife did something that pissed me off one time, and I'm used to women in the past, when I bring it up to them, they're like, oh, you're tripping, you're doing too much, oh, you're being insecure. But it was just me just voicing how I felt. And when I can do that with her, and she'll say, oh, I'm sorry, I didn't mean to make you feel that way, or I apologize. I'm like, whoa. like, those few words, I'm sorry, or I apologize. That's huge. So imagine, like, someone, I've heard people that are in relationships that were, they're with someone that just never admits they're wrong, never, apologizes. Imagine what that does to someone, like, if you're gonna have trust and mutual respect, you gotta be able to admit when you're wrong.
Yeah, 100%. That's a big part of it, because I feel like, what is the point of a relationship? Like, do you want to move forward with that person? Do you want to build something together? Then you wouldn't care about those little details. You would want to make sure everything is straight. You want to make sure that the dynamic is, you know, moving, like, straight. It's flowing with no constraints. And if something happens, you handled it like, like an adult. But
Yes.
sometimes people just don't want to do that. The easy ways to blame things. The easy ways to lash out. The easy ways to let go of the relationship. The easy ways to just seek the next short-term person or short-term dopamine fix. It can be substances. It can be people. It can be just the way of living, basically. And I feel like apologies. Those little gestures go a long way. Sometimes you gotta. Sometimes you gotta apologize for another person, because they did something wrong.
Yeah.
No, but jokes aside, like, no, it's a great way to go about it. It it is challenging, especially if the other person is like willing to grow with you and handle those situations like an adult. I think the things can always work out. But sometimes, as you said, like, some people just don't want to admit their part. Some people don't want to grow, and that's the time I think, like, you just gotta kind of move on, and you say, what, I did my best, but it's just not working out.
That's 100% true. And I think one of the main situations when it comes to that is, so many people are in a relationship to take. It's all
Yeah,
about taking. It's all about what they can get. What can I get from this person? How can I take time for this person? How can I take resources? How can I get, it's take. And there's not enough give. And the whole point of a relationship is to give to that person. And if both people are giving to each other, then you really can't go wrong. But the problem is, everybody's just so selfish. They're in it for themselves. And, you know, they're so ready to move on to the next one, because they don't want to deal with what they need to deal with. That's why there's so many people that are what we call serial monogamous. As soon as there's like something that's going wrong or whatever, they'll leave. But I do believe that sometimes people also need to know when they need to leave, because
yeah,
sometimes the relationship is one sided. Sometimes you are the giver and the other person is the taker. But it's good to be able to discern, when is it time to leave? When is it time to stay and actually fight this out? Because sometimes people end up staying, 15, 20 years too long in the relationship, where they're not giving back. You're just
yeah.
the only one. And it can't be one sided, because, what happens in a one sided relationship? That's where resentment happens. That's where, cheating might happen. Anything happens in that type of relationship.
Hmm. What are some signs from your experience that you feel like the relationship may be one-sided?
Well, I had a particular relationship where, whenever I would open up or try to explain what I felt about something, then it's an attack. It's an attack. And so
Hmm.
it could be that person, if they need to open up to me, then they needed all my time, all my, acceptance, energy, and all that. But when it was time for me to be able to share, then it was, oh, this is too much. So that was one of the main things, is like, how can you how can you even have communication with someone that won't receive from you? Like, how can you gain that mutual trust if they can share what you've done wrong, but you can't let them know what they've done wrong? If it can't be mutual, then it's a give and a give. Like, there's no or a take. You're just giving and they're taking. Um, you know, and then now I always say, because sometimes people want, they might feel loved in a certain way. Like, some people is words of affirmation, some people is gifts. That's a whole different story. But when you're actually asking for something that you need from a partner, and they just can't give it, and you've asked it many times, you've asked it in the nicest way possible, it feels like you have to beg for it. If there's no change there, and it's actually reasonable, I feel like that's when you should know that it's time. Because sometimes it could be something as simple as, I'll use this as an example. uh for me, like, I love to know when my wife is, whenever she's out, I love to know when she's made it back home. And that's the thing that I just love. And if she wasn't used to doing that, when she get home, like, oh, I just went straight to bed. And I'm like, but I would really appreciate it if you could let me know. And she started doing that. And it's something so small, like, it's something little, but for me, it was like, this is me being a protector. Like, I want to know that you're safe. I want to know that you made it back. And I'm not trying to control you or anything like that. It's just I get a better peace of mind knowing that my woman is safe. As simple as that. And she did that for me. But now imagine I did the same thing with my ex. Oh yeah, would you mind letting me know when you make it back? Oh, well, why are you gonna do that? Oh, you're so insecure, and I don't get the big deal. It's something like simple, and I would expect that if she would do that for me, I would do something similar for her as well. If there's no give and take here, like, it's just take and they can't do anything, there's no compromise, that's when you should know there's nothing you can do with someone that won't compromise, because you're going to have to compromise at some point. It's two separate people coming together in a relationship. So for both needs to get met, sometimes there's going to be some things that you need to compromise on, and that's just the way it is. It's not a bad thing, but some people will make it feel like it's a bad thing because they want everything. They want to take everything, and they don't want to give anything in return
Yeah,
as well. And that's not a relationship.
yeah. Um, that's a great point that you mentioned. That some people just take. They don't give anything back. How do you, I feel like, as you said, like, some people just receive things differently. They receive different things. They receive energy, attention, and actions differently, than you do, right?
Right.
But I feel like also some people, it's not necessarily that, as you said, it's just their internal reaction that the moment they feel like a bit of responsibility on their side, they feel a bit of constructive criticism that's towards them, they lose it. They cannot handle it. And I feel like that's where, like, a lot of the times people go wrong, that they just cannot, like, sit down with that discomfort. And you know what, like, this is like, this person may saying is may like, they're saying this to me, but it doesn't mean it's true. It doesn't mean this is end of the world. It doesn't mean they have a negative intention towards me. It doesn't mean they want to put me down. It's just something that they're feeling right now. They want to share with us, but it doesn't mean like it's like an attack. It's just
Yeah.
something they noticed.
100%. I think being able to take constructive criticism, for one, I think it's almost like a skill, because I
Hundred
feel like
percent.
almost, because I feel like a lot of people will be offended. And I was one of them. I'm not going to lie. If anyone told me anything that I did wrong or anything I could work on, it felt like a personal attack on my character. It felt like someone was really, like, just gut punching me and just, like, really giving it to me. And I'm just like, dang, like, but I had to understand, like, especially if it's someone that actually cares about you, or someone that, really, you know, in the relationship that you're in. Um, it's really important to be able to take that, because it's only going to build you. Whatever is missing or whatever is, broken, quote unquote, you can fix that and you can create something new from that. And that's why I feel like creative criticism is important, because like I look at it like what is it? Like I like to sometimes use video games as a reference. Yeah, you might start off with a person that has a lot of strength and they might have a lot of HP, but down here they don't have a lot of speed and they don't have a lot of defense or whatever. So it's like, okay, I need to figure out, how do I fix these deficiencies? How do I put things towards these things that I'm weak on? And when you have someone that's able to, criticize you in a constructive way, because no, people aren't going to take negative criticism. Like, they're not going to take where someone's just like, oh, you suck, you could do this better, that's because you're so bad at this. No one's going to really receive that well. But if constructive, it's, if you think about it, it's it's a little bit more out of love. It's more of this is what I feel like you could do better in, and it's going to help you be 1,000 times stronger in whatever area it is. So I would say, one of the things that everyone should work on is being able to take that, because I can guarantee you, anyone that cannot take constructive criticism, they'll be stuck in a spot for a while, because the only type of growth that you're going to be able to have is if you can be criticized, or if you can deal with a rejection or some type of downfall. Something like that is going to happen in life. And it all, just like you said earlier, it all depends on the reaction. How are you going to react to it? How are you going to respond to it? Are you going to just let it get you down, or are you going to be able to grow from it and take this constructive criticism or whatever lesson it is and be able to create something new from it?
Absolutely, that's so true. What is a trait that you feel like it's very, very underrated? I know not a lot of people talk about it, but it makes relationships click from your experience.
Oh man, it's just honesty. Like
Mm,
honesty, and I'll say too, honesty and comprehension. I say comprehension because some people say that communication is important, and communication is really important. But if there's no comprehension, you're just talking.
yeah,
you know.
nobody's receiving it.
So I believe, yeah, so it's like being able to actually comprehend what the other person is saying, so you can actually digest it and actually make whatever changes or whatever adjustments need to be done. That's huge. And then honesty, being able to just be honest and being able to know that when you're talking to this person, this person is being truthful. I don't have to worry. I don't have to second guess. This person is what they're saying is what they're saying, and and whoever who they say they are is who they are, and that is how you can gain the most powerful trust with people. If you can both just be brutally honest, just being able to be open, just be able to honestly, and that can be a lot of things. It could be what you're saying, or it can just be you just being honest with who you are as a person, just being able to present yourself without holding back. uh, that's huge in a relationship. And I've heard so many times with people that are in relationships and they're hiding who they really are. They can't really be honest. They can't say who they are when they're around their girlfriend. They're entirely. I mean, all of us, we might be different around certain people, but like, I mean, whole mask on, mask off when they leave. And so it's like, when you can really be honest, that type of trait, it's I mean, it's huge. That'll change every single thing, every dynamic about the relationship. It'll be such a strong bond, or it'll break it, because sometimes people don't want who you actually are. And that's why I think so many people are actually scared to be honest because of that. They're scared
Yeah.
what they might lose about, when they put forth their honesty. But I encourage everyone to be honest in the beginning, because hey, who you are and who you're, showing this person who you are, they'll either like it or they won't.
Yeah.
And you can either speed up the process or you can prolong it. you know, Sometimes you can save yourself a lot of time by just being yourself and like,
Mm,
I don't think this is what I'm looking for. Like, or, oh, this is exactly what I'm looking for. So, I mean, yeah, honesty, I think, is one of the biggest traits.
yeah, that's very important. Even though I feel like people talk about it, but it just comes off that it's not really applied. Because I was even talking to my, not the previous guest, but like 2 guests ago today, we were talking about dating again, and we were talking about how a lot of men, they try to impress women with a certain lifestyle that they cannot maintain, and
Yeah,
they're not doing it because it's actually them. They're doing it to impress, to get a certain reaction, to, put a certain facade on, like this, like, oh yeah, this is me, or I'm trying to impress you, but it's not really them. And it's not like, a lot of people tend to lead with material things, and I don't think it's
yeah,
a strong position to lead a relationship on. If it's something with, internally, if it's who you are, it's a strong foundation, and you can't, it's very hard to take that away from you, unless you let it go. But if it's material, there's always someone, we were talking about, like, there's always someone richer than you, there's always someone, more good looking than you, more accomplished than you. There's like all this stuff, right? But if it's something internal, that it's who you are as a person, there is only one of you. There's only one of you. So if you're being yourself, you already have that advantage. Now, if it's okay now, people don't connect with you, they don't want to be with you, that's fine. Nobody, only 1% of people are supposed to be like, aligned with you, connected with you.
right.
That's fine. But if you're able to stay true yourself, as you said, you're gonna basically bypass all the problems, most of the problems, without even wasting a lot of time, because people can either connect with you or they don't have to connect with you.
It's really as simple as that, and
Yeah.
it seems simple, but this is something that I wish I knew, 10 years ago, because there's so many times, and I hear a lot of guys, I took her out on a $400 date, and then we went on a helicopter ride, and then we did this. And I was like, yo, I don't think I can afford to ever do this again. It's like, well, what, she's gonna expect it. You led with it. Someone gave me some really good advice once, and they're like, hey, you really want to find someone that that you're compatible with and all these things, why don't you try inviting a woman out to do things that you would already normally be doing? And it's like,
Exactly.
it's something so simple, like, but it makes sense. Why not just do that instead of trying to pretend like, oh, I don't even like going horseback riding, but I'm going to take her horseback riding, and we'll go do this and all these things, which, hey, it's new experiences. If that's what you want to do, then that's cool. But the whole point is just to be authentic to who you are. If you're a person that loves to go out and eat, then cool. Take her out on a whatever, you like to go for lobster, whatever it is you want to do, or
Yeah.
tacos, do that. But just make sure that it's aligned with what you want to do. Because that's one thing that I had to learn, you'll save so much time. I remember, I'll use this as an example. The one ex I was talking about before that, said, oh, you don't have a backbone, you have this, and this. I remember one time we went out on a date and I took her kayaking. Now, I thought that was a super nice gesture. It's like $80 for us to go on a kayak. It'll be romantic, but she's not she was not like really a water type of person, like to be on boats, and she didn't want to do any paddling, and she wasn't into that. And so, but me, I'm like, oh well, I don't get it. It's nice. It's still nice. Yeah, but that's not what she's into. And so it's like sometimes you have to also be like, hey, let actually do things that you will both enjoy. If,
Yeah.
if you don't want to do something that only you're going to enjoy, and you don't want to do something that only she's going to enjoy, also, you want to make it, mutually beneficial for both of you. So do things that you would both like. Some people are into coffee shops, so go to a coffee shop, or you're into jazz, or you want to go to, a poetry slam contest, whatever it might be, just do things that actually align. And that's something that I had to learn myself. You'll save so much time when you just find out, oh yeah, like this person actually likes, some of the same, we have like some of the same interests and on the same, and you don't have to like the same thing. Sometimes you could be exploring something new together because you guys like to do that.
Yeah.
Whatever it is, that's even another thing. Maybe you want to explore. I want to go check out a new town, and you both never been there before, but that's what y'all think is a fun date. It's that simple. It's just finding things that you both will enjoy, and then you'll connect. And I feel like a lot more people will have a lot more successful relationships if they started it off right.
Lead with who you are, actually lead with your day-to-day routine and how you live. Basically, doesn't mean don't put an effort, but doesn't mean go
Right.
above and beyond to impress and be somebody that's not really you. And I totally agree, because I was talking to my again one of my previous guests today, and we were like talking about, oh, like, you don't have to necessarily do anything crazy. You can just invite her to be part of your day, and that's what I exactly did with my current relationship with my girl. Like, I finished 75 hard at the time, or I wasn't 75 hard, and then it's
Yeah.
basically a challenge that you just do habits and stuff, and I had to do like walks every night, stuff like that. And then I was like, you know what, let's just come on a walk. We're gonna go on a walk. And for like 3, 4 days, we were just going on walks, just multiple different places, but we were just walking. Like I wasn't off, off track with my habits. We got to
Yeah.
know each other, and I think because of the time spent, that it was like sheerly just talking, and it wasn't like restaurants or like crazy places. Just to like that, it wasn't. I mean, it was the experience was good. It wasn't like crazy. It was just walk that we actually got to know each other. We were talking about visions and goals and where we see each other and what do we want out of life. And funny enough, like a lot of our common ideas and interests came from there because we started
Wow.
from a strong foundation.
See, I love that story because that's like it's something. It's so pure. It's just like original. It's just like you were just doing your regular routine. Like,
Yeah.
hey, come along for this. What I normally do, and then look, and something beautiful came out of it. It's really that simple. I think people, will complicate things, and they, but I came and just, I'm not pointing fingers because, like I said, I was that person as well, and I've done so many. And the thing is, you do all these things, take them on all these extravagant dates and all this stuff, and then by the third, fourth date, you're like, oh, you know what? Actually, I don't really like this person, but you already spent like $300. It's like doing something more authentic. I think, like, of course, if anyone wants to spend the money and all that, that's totally fine. But if you want to actually just do the whole authentic thing, just see if you actually even like the person on a basic level. See if you guys actually can have a conversation. See if you guys have any type of viewpoints that align. Any, or a direction that you're going, or just see if you guys actually are even compatible on the base level. Can you be friends at the very least? At the very least. But I think there's so many relationships right now that they're physically attracted. They might have great sex. Uh, they might even be a good business partner, but they're not friends. They're not at the very lowest level, at the base level. They're not even friends. They can't even have a normal conversation when they're alone, or can't talk about anything outside of sex. There's so much more to a relationship than just that physical part. So it's like, can y'all confide in each other? Is this a person that has a listen, knows how to listen? Is this a person that knows how to actually throw back ideas, or what I mean? Like, are they even where you are and on mental stimulation type of level?
Yeah.
I think those things are, things that can be found out from a simple talk, from a simple, basic type of date. It
Yeah.
doesn't have to be crazy. That at the end of the day, you're supposed to be finding out if you actually like this person in the first place. So why throw all the extra money if you're, especially if, I know a lot of guys that are just wanting to get out here and just get on as many dates as they want and as they can. So it's like, if you're one of those guys, there's nothing wrong with that. But hey, are you going to be throwing out $100 on every single date that you go on, or are you going to actually take time to actually get to know this person?
No, absolutely. That was me last year. I feel like in a first initial part, I was like more of like, just like, go to this place and that restaurant. And it's funny because like the best experiences that I had was with the ones that I had like the lowest investments, the most like
Wow.
the best experiences. Because it's funny, like again, like I just keep remembering these stories, and it's sometimes like a lot of girls don't even want to be with you, they just want to be with the experience that you can provide for them. And there was
Yeah.
this one time that I went on a gym date with this girl, like I want to say 2, 3 years ago. And then, we had like a good, training. After that, we went on a restaurant, we had some wine. I didn't spend crazy money, but it was like a decent amount for like, I was like 20, 21 at the time. And then, I was like, you know what, it's not that bad. We just, worked out. It's not that bad. Another date goes by. She becomes a bit more warmer, and then third date, she becomes suddenly cold, very random and distant, like just
Wow.
doesn't like acts very weird. And then we go like another walk again. We just talk again. She kind of warms up. And then there was this one time, like I was kind of saying, "Oh, let's go here," and then she was like, "Oh, like that place is not nice enough for me. Take me to my nice restaurant.
Oh
And then I was like,
wow.
oh, okay, I see where this is going. So I just stopped, just didn't go anywhere,
Yeah. But that's the thing, you find out these things. You'll find out these things early. Because someone told me a lot of the main things that people say when it comes to long-term relationships is, oh, I didn't see it, or they hid who they really were, you know. Um, but someone said a really good quote, and it's like, people can usually hide who they really are for about 90 days, and but in between that time, you're gonna see the signs. They're gonna drop the little pieces of themselves. And I tell people this is what I would always do before I found my woman. It's like, hey, I just let everybody be exactly who they are. Just no judgment. Just let them be who they are. I want to see who this person is for real. Like, without me saying anything, like trying to put restraints on. No, I want to see who this person is at first, like at the base level. And then they'll show you. But believe me, they'll show you. And
Yeah,
in that time, you'll be able to find it out in a lot faster time period, rather than, oh, I need to go on 10 dates to see this person. And you're like, oh, by the second day, you're like, oh, they're showing me who they are. And I'm like, I don't think that's something I can deal with long term.
yeah,
There's different ways to really just see who people really are, and see if that's somebody that you really want to move forward with, or if you want to just move on.
absolutely. Yeah, the cracks show early on if you pay attention to it. You just have to be receptive to it to notice.
Facts.
Mm. um, I'm sure you've had like a lot of experiences, a lot of relationships. You've gone through a lot of lessons, trials, and tribulations. What would be like? Let's just say you had 60 seconds, for a young guy to share your wisdom and lessons that's going to actually transform their life. Like, what would you say?
I'll say, make sure that even if you are chasing, or I won't say chasing, even if you're seeking a type of woman, make sure that you always pour into yourself. Make sure that you always pour into your mindset. Make sure that you take a hold of your sexual cravings. You can get your sexual desires in order, and you can have self control. That's your power. And find, make sure that you're finding the time to seek whatever your purpose is, whatever your drive, your passion is. That's going to be one of the most important things. Whatever your God given purpose is for being on this planet, whatever it might be, you need to be seeking after that, and everything else falls into place. Like, if you can do those things, if you can do those three things, making sure you're got self love, you're pouring into yourself, you're taking control of your sexual appetite, and you focus on your purpose. The right woman will show up, the right opportunities, the right jobs, the right people, all that stuff will come into place. If you don't learn anything else as a young man, this can change your life.
That's some real deep stuff, man. I feel like if people really apply that, they can really see the benefits for themselves. Like pour into yourself, take care of your mission, your vision. Really like grow yourself, take care of yourself, because like we're just like this, like seeds that we're growing. We gotta water ourselves. We gotta get some sun, move around,
Facts.
interact. Like we gotta take care of this plant, and when we grow, we can give the fruits to other people.
100%.
Yeah, man.
100%.
uh, Jalen, it was like a pleasure to have you on. I learned a lot. I'm sure the viewers learned a lot. It was a great experience. You have any closing words?
Uh, yeah, just for everybody that's looking for this special relationship, this healthy relationship, you can have it. All of it starts within you. So whatever you're looking for, whatever you're seeking, just know that it's in here first. And once you can get this in order first, all the external world will all revolve around that. So do
Absolutely.
that, work on the inside, and the outside follows.
Yeah, man. That's perfectly said. And that's a great way to wrap it up, man. Once again, thank you for coming on.
I appreciate you, man. It's been good.